Palisade Radio is brought to you by First Majestic Silver Corp, one of the world's purest and fastest growing silver mining companies.
Welcome back to another episode of Palisade Radio. It's that time of year and mining investors are descending on Toronto for the annual PDAC conference. We're here at the Integra Gold Challenge. We're happy to be sitting down with Rob McEwen. He's, of course, the CEO of McEwen Mining, and our listeners might remember we had him on just a few weeks ago. Rob, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You know, I want to first talk to you about the idea of the Integra Gold Challenge. It was something that you had many years ago, and you did it under the Gold Corp Gold Challenge. Tell us a little bit about how that came about and what the successes were that came out of that challenge.
Well, it started with a question that I posed to our chief geologist. I said, how much more gold are we going to find in our mine? We just made a big discovery. It had grown for a couple of years. And just said, how much more gold? Because we wanted to build a new mine processing plant. And he said, I don't know. And I went, that's a lousy answer. Then I said, how long is it going to take you to find out how much gold? And he said, I don't know. And I didn't like that answer either. And that was the start of a process where I said, let's get a brainstorming session together and bring all our geologists into the room and have them sit down for 2 days and talk about the ideas they haven't shared and also the ideas their bosses had shot down. And we gathered. The first presenter was someone I called up after I made the head of exploration sit down because he was going at it in a conventional way. And I asked the person who I knew had some differing opinions to come up and talk about the last idea his boss shot down. And there was this big arc of electricity that went across the room between the boss and him, and it was basically saying, you say that, you're fired. You pick up the tension and you go, well, I want to change the rules. And I'm going to say, the first person who threatens someone else with being fired is fired. So that opened up the door. After 2 days, everybody ran out of the room. All sorts of ideas had been shared. There was a lot of energy. And I started thinking, we should do this again, but on a larger scale. We should invite our retired geologists. We should invite our government geologists that know the area. We should invite our competition next door. And you know, it's a seed, and it's working away, and it's germinating. And then at one point I went, you know, on every continent, there's a similar geological setting, so there should be expertise there, but how do we get to them? And I ended up going to a course at MIT in Boston on information technologies, and for a totally different purpose. I was trying to figure out how we push the mining industry from the 19th century into the 21st century. And on the second day, right after lunch, they started talking about Linux and open source code. And I went, there it is. And sort of the light bulb went off, and I said, there's a template we should use to communicate this question to the world. So I came back home, and we took 50 years of data, geological data. We created a very extensive bibliography in addition to that, worked with a software company called Gemcom, and so we could take our database and have it in 2 and 3 dimensions, and we threw it up on the web. And we said to the world, tell us where we'll find the next 6 million ounces of gold in our mine, and we'll give you prizes totaling $500,000. And that was start. So we spent $500,000 setting it up, $500,000 in prize money, and we found $3 billion worth of gold.
So the idea here with the Integra Gold Challenge is, of course, very similar in that you spend some money, get a lot more mines together, and hopefully discover a lot more gold. Why aren't more companies doing this, Rob?
Part of it is timing. You have to find a time when people in the industry have extra time. So when we did it, we launched it in 2000. It was at the bottom of the gold cycle. The gold was at a 20-year low. There was all sorts of excess capacity, intellectual capacity. People weren't fully employed, so they could put their mind to this problem statement. There were 2 attempts. BHP tried it several years after us, and I consulted with them. And they took 150 years of data that was in file boxes, digitized it, and threw up on the web 7 terabytes of data, which is a massive file. And they invited people to come in and joint venture some of these properties. One, it was at a time they wanted too much to get the joint venture. And two, there had been a lot of money starting to come into the industry, and so people weren't as readily available. And after that, they became very fully employed and actually shorter time. So we are now at another lull in the cycle when there's a lot of excess capacity. So it's an ideal time to do it.
You would know better than anybody how the competition today is looking to shape up. Obviously, you've already looked at many of the results that have come in, and tomorrow night there's going to be announced the winner. What do you think the success has been for Integra on this? Is it going to match up to Gold Corp?
Well, they have a lot more people behind it. There are many other sponsors. When we did it, we were basically doing it with ourselves and with Gemcom. But here they have the software providers, they have IBM, they have a number of brokerage firms, banks, and IBM, and so other suppliers all creating a bigger moment. So I think from a standpoint, the Integra name, as was Goldcorp's name, gets pushed around the world by using today's technology to apply it to an old industry that many people don't see a future in. I think they'll definitely have targets that they're going to execute on. They'll probably see someone start up these mines again. I'm quite sure of that. And they'll have a much better path to develop a larger resource and an economic activity in Val-d'Or.
One last question for you, Rob. We talked to you about 3 or 4 weeks ago. You just mentioned the lull in the market. There's been a huge shift. Money started rushing into the sector. A lot of people we've talked to have said the bottom is definitely in, but people want to hear the voices that count, and your voice certainly counts. So is the bottom in? McEwen Mining's up over 100%. That's great to hear.
It feels like we're probably past the bottom. In the last month, we've seen the U.S. dollar starting to weaken. And that, to me, was one of the key ingredients. I think when we spoke the last time, I had mentioned from 2001 to 2005, gold was going up in dollar terms, but most other currencies, it was flat. Post-2005, it started going up in all currencies, and that brought a flood of money into the sector, people who wanted to be investing in gold, silver, and other mining stocks. We have somewhat of the inverse of that happening since the highs were reached for gold in 2011. September 2011, gold was over $1,900 an ounce. Since then, gold has gone in one direction in dollar terms, and that's been going down, and it dropped 45%. But in the last year to year and a half, gold has been going up in other currencies. You may remember, we had the Canadian dollar was par with the US dollar back in 2011. Well, right now, even though gold's, say, $12.50, Canadian dollar terms, it's 10% off its old high. The same thing's happening in Australia. The same thing is happening in South Africa. And so the mines that are there are cash flowing in a way that no one could believe, and they're going to be kicking off profits, and that's what people are seeing right now. So in the last month, we've seen gold starting to turn up in dollar terms. And that is attracting the money in. And if you think of the market, think of the gold price as being a spring, and someone's pushed it down 45%. And when you take the pressure off, it's starting to move back up again. And the gold stocks fell almost twice as far as gold fell in most cases. And there's no selling going on. The people who wanted to sell and thought it was a lousy investment have long got out of it. There's been big turnover in the investors, and the people who are in now, the majority don't want to sell. So it's all supply and demand. There's limited supply, and the demand is small but growing, and that's had explosive results. You could look across the junior index, and most of them have doubled. If you looked at Barrick, it's up 100% since October. Or you could look at Coeur Mining, which was a heavily indebted silver producer. In the last month, it's almost tripled. So if you're getting 1% yield on your money market instrument, or you're getting a 5% dividend in one area, or you're getting beat up in biotech and technology, and you're saying, what's going on here that there's so much money suddenly being made in the metal industry. And people will start looking at it and saying, yes, the money supply is expanded around the world. The debt levels are huge. There's a little bit of political strife going on in different corners of the world. And the banking system, they're starting to talk about derivatives. And you look at the economy and it hasn't recovered despite the massive infusion of capital. So people are saying, all right, if someone's going to charge a negative interest rate on my bank account, that means I'm going to put money in the bank and I have to pay the bank to keep the money there. I might as well buy gold. I mean, it's moving up. And I think those factors are contributing to the movement in the price of gold. Last year we saw January 15, there were 20 days of positive movement in the market, and then it faded. Right now we've gone for 2 months, and we're just entering March. There is some seasonality, so maybe you don't want to put all your money in right away, but because there's a lull. But this feels like we're at a bottom, and we're going higher.
All right, fantastic, Rob. Thank you so much for coming back on the show in such short time period, and best of luck tomorrow night.
Thank you very much, and it's to the contestants.
And we just spoke to Rob McEwen. We now have Sean Roosen, who is the CEO of Osisko Gold Royalty, sitting with us. Sean, a real pleasure to have you on the show.
Well, it's great to be here, and I think this is a very exciting thing for the industry and for Val-d'Or.
Well, that's right. And of course, we're talking about the Integra Gold Challenge here tomorrow night. The results come out of who the winner is. Big amount of money for those people. But the more exciting thing is the discovery that might be coming underway here. We were just talking, and you were saying how exciting that the region is based on the proximity to discoveries that you've made in the past and wealth that's been created from that.
Oh, absolutely. We had a great success with Canadian Malartic, which is now Canada's largest gold producer, and it's created several $1 billion of wealth for shareholders. $4 billion when we sold it, but it's contributed hugely to the economy. Contributed to the development of Quebec and the development of the mining industry in Canada, and we're hoping that the Integra Challenge, really brings that next big discovery and wealth creation for everybody.
Well, Sean, you've been called a shark on the panel here, listening to the findings of the different groups. It's down to 5 finalists. What do you think the caliber of information these people have been uncovering? Do you think there's going to be a lot of value that comes out of this for Integra?
Well, I think that we are on the next leg of the technology evolution. We used it to our advantage when we did the Canadian Malartic discovery. That was a similar process to this, but the power of the technology and the new processes, the artificial intelligence that's available, it's proof that this is an industry that's ripe for innovation. People are doing it, and this is the kind of thing that's going to explain to everybody what it is we do in the gold business. We are innovators, and we do want to see the next generation of technology and the next generation of young people that really come together and make this work and deliver some value for our communities and for our country.
Sean, you've been one of the biggest, most prominent names in the mining industry over the last few years, and part of that is your ability to defy the cycles and create value in good and in bad times, and finance, of course, and be able to market companies. But the cycle is always king in mining, and we've seen a change of tides the last 3 or 4 weeks. Money started to rush back in. Some people are not convinced yet. We just asked Rob, and he seemed pretty convinced that the bottom was behind us. What's your thoughts on the market conditions as we go into PDAC?
Well, I've never been one to waste a bad market, and we've certainly tried to take advantage of the conditions as they were out the past and make sure that there was good work getting done. And I think that if we can get a little firmness in the gold price, it would be very good for everybody. And I think that we've had a good couple months here, and we've seen some evolution. So hopefully we'll attract some capital back into the gold space and mining in general. But I think that it kind of feels like we're firming up, and hopefully we've been in a down cycle for coming up on 4 years. That we've finally come out the other side of it, and I'm hopeful for everybody to see some progress and see some markets that we can work with.
All right, and last question for you on Osisko Gold Royalty. What can you tell our listeners about what's going on over there?
Well, Osisko Gold Royalties, in 20 months, we've done over $1 billion in transactions with the acquisition of Virginia. We've got $450 million of cash in the bank, another $200 million of acquisition facilities. So we have about $650 million to deploy into the marketplace, and we're very active on that front. We also have associated companies such as Oban and Falco and Barkerville, where we've deployed capital, and we're looking for new developments, new discoveries to come forth through that model. And we've been one of the biggest explorers in Quebec and Ontario and BC through our subsidiary companies throughout the down cycle. We always believe that all wealth is created at the drill bit. Mining is just a de-risking operation, and we've been able to keep our team rolling throughout the cycle, and we're ready to take advantage of the next uptick, and we're creating new opportunities every day, and it's a very exciting time for us, and we're working harder than we ever have.
All right, Sean, thank you so much, and I hope you have an enjoyable time tomorrow night and the rest of PDAC, and I hope for a good 2016.
Absolutely. 2016 looks like a pretty good year so far.
That it does. Thank you so much. We just spoke with Rob McEwen and Sean Roosen. We now have George Salamis here, who's the chairman of Integra Gold. George, welcome on the program.
Good afternoon, Colin.
George, I want to talk to you from a standpoint of an investor with Integra, the benefit that the investors are going to see out of this challenge, the money that's being paid out. Obviously, it was a huge success for Goldcorp back in the day when they did it.
I think top of the list would be all the great ideas that'll come out of this. Our team has already reviewed a number of these submissions that come through this by way of this challenge that we ran, and they're already starting to see some phenomenal things that they would have never seen themselves or would have taken a very long time to get to see. So the IRR on what this contest means to them is immense.
Yeah, and I guess the concept there is the more eyes that are on the data, the better. There's so much that can be missed and so many different interpretations that can be made. What do you think I guess, first of all, stepping back a second, all the data that's compiled from the different teams, that's all acquired by Integra. So you're not only getting the winning group's data, but you really get to analyze a whole different set of eyes on the program there.
Oh, absolutely, and that's a question that comes up often is, how do these top 5 finalists compare to the rest of the other 95 submissions that we got? And amongst the other 95s, there are some phenomenal ideas as well. And so we'll be literally years sifting through all these ideas. We already are geared up to start testing some of these ideas almost immediately once post competition. But we've got ammunition for the next couple of years, certainly.
That's great. And so you said you're already starting to look at things that you're going to do. I guess the truest test of that always is sticking a drill bit into a new area. That's the most exciting, the biggest way to get a share jump. Do you think that you already have, coming out of this, some drill-ready targets that you're going to have to go with?
Yeah, we should do. One of the things that we asked for in this competition was for specific targets, not sort of nebulous ideas, but specific where would you stick a drill type. X, Y, Z coordinate type stuff, and a lot of the targets are drill ready. They're close to infrastructure. They're close to roads, or they're accessible, and so we could get to drilling those very, very quickly after the competition.
Yeah, well, what an exciting way to start PDAC this year. The last time this challenge was done was, I think, 10 or 15 years ago, and it was a huge success, and I'm hoping for Integra it's the same success. George, thank you so much for adding to this piece and coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Awesome, great, thank you.
We're back now with one of the other sharks, one of the other judges on the panel for the Integra Gold channel, and that's Brent Cook. We've had him on the program before. He's, of course, with Exploration Insights, explorationinsights.com. Brent, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Good to be here on such another PDAC.
Yeah, well, without going off topic, this year seems like it might be a little more upbeat than the last couple of years.
I'm encouraged. It's the first time I have been for 4 years, but I'm encouraged. I think we've hit bottom.
Yeah, and I remember I interviewed you last year, and you said 2015 was going to be a slow one, but 2016 is when it might start, so good job on the timing there. On to the challenge. We've asked some of the other people we've talked to, Rob and Sean, what they see as the benefit of this challenge for Integra Gold and for the industry. Starting off, what do you see as the benefit?
Well, certainly for Integra, they've outsourced several terabytes of data to the world, and it's interesting because when you've got 7 terabytes of data, your biggest problem is how to get rid of most of it. And they've had other people doing that. So what they're down to is a group of experts, technical experts, who've managed to pull the data they felt was the best out of that and come up with some interesting targets that hopefully haven't been tested and hopefully will turn out into discovery. So I think that's fantastic in that respect. And in terms of the industry, this is great for the industry. We're just coming out of the bottom, and these people who got their name into the final 5, this will be great for their career.
Now, how are you going about, obviously there's 7 terabytes of data. You can only hear so much from each group. How are you going about judging and picking a winner tomorrow? We're
fortunate in that we've had a technical committee go through and whittle down the however many entries there were down to 5, and that technical committee has most of the input as to who wins. The sharks, or titans I guess they're calling us, are going to judge based on the data as presented, the ideas, the clarity of the presentation, the enthusiasm. That's our input into it. So we're judging on that by and large to make a decision.
I know you've only seen so much. You said the technical committee has seen most of it, but from what you've seen, does this look like a worthwhile endeavor for Integra, and are they going to have drill-ready targets coming out of this event here?
Without a doubt, this is a smart thing for them. And they're spending probably $1.5 million total with the funds and the work behind it, and they're going to get some targets that they certainly wouldn't have thought of before. Interesting thing is going to be what I would do, and I suspect they will as well, is take the targets from a number of these different groups and see how they line up and see how many targets are actually the same between different methodologies. And those are going to be really prime targets. So I have no doubt they're going to find more mineralization.
All right, and Brent, we'll have you back on in a couple months, but just one last quick question for you. Investors right now, they've already seen a lot of these stocks jump quite a bit. What interests you the most coming the next 3 or 4 years if this is indeed the beginning of a new bull market? What are you looking for to make spectacular gains?
The interesting thing to me is that we're producing more mine production, copper, gold, especially gold, than we're finding. That's been going for a while. In terms of gold, we're producing, say, 90 million ounces. We're finding, on average, 45 million a year. That gap is going to get really, really interesting. There's a pinch point coming where these major mining companies who, every ounce they mine, they've got to replace. They're not replacing it. So to me, it's the early stage discoveries that these major mining companies are going to have to buy down the road that is really the sexy part of this industry right now.
Well, it looks to be a good 2016, a good PDAC. Brent, thank you so much for coming back on the program with us.
Thanks. Hope to do it again.
We're finishing up here with our last interview today with Stephen DeJong. He is the CEO of Integra Gold. Of course, much of what's gone into this Integra Gold Challenge has been his idea, his doing, and we want to welcome you on the program, Steve.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
From everybody we've talked to so far, we've talked to Rob McEwen and Sean Roosen and Brent Cook. They think this is a fabulous idea. It's going to return a lot of value for shareholders and for management on the project. How do you feel coming up to the final night of the competition? How has this worked out so far?
So far, it's been great, but this is the night before, so there's still a lot of things that we have to do. Sort of a little nervous, very, very optimistic, very excited about what's going to happen. Tomorrow's a big night for us to get up there, and we've seen the submissions already, or the submissions have gone through, so a lot of it is more to showcase what we're doing to the entire industry. So we've got 400 people from buy side, sell side, corporate, from the gold industry, from the resource industry, that are going to be there, presented some new ideas in exploration, some new ideas, some new ways to look at it. But I think more importantly than that, new ideas and new ways in how we approach exploration in general, working together to come up, to share ideas, is going to lead to hopefully some new discoveries.
Well, when you started this competition a few months ago, the market was certainly not good, and some people might have questioned why to expend this kind of capital on doing a competition like this. With the market turning, I think a lot of those worries are going to go away, but not only are you getting all of these eyes on the project, all these different perspectives on what might be under the ground, a huge marketing that's going on for Integra Gold with this, and it seems like it's going to work out in more ways than one. In terms of the submissions that you've gotten so far, do you think you have drill-ready targets that are in place for when this is over?
And actually, just before I answer your question there, a little bit about kind of the money and the resources and the capital that we put into this. It's really it's how you approach it. It's your return on investment. So a good example is 2 years ago, we bought a mill that was bankrupt and had a big environmental liability tied to it. We bought that mill, and the same day that we bought it, we sold
60% of that environmental liability, which was the waste rock, to a big construction company for $1 million cash. And we only had a $1.8 million cash payment to make with this mill. So there's real opportunities that create themselves within this market. And the $1 million cash prize, we're able to go out and raise sponsors through sponsors of the challenge because of all the publicity it generated. The bulk of that was actually raised through sponsorships of the challenge. So we're getting this great PR, this great exposure. This event tomorrow night is going to bring in $250,000 to local charities in the community that we operate in. And it's actually not that big of an expense to the company. As far as drill-ready targets go, there's a number of targets we're really excited about. It'll be great to get up, see some of those presenters, some of those ideas up on stage. And then we're really looking forward to, within a few weeks, compiling that data, put our exploration plan together, and get out there and attack those targets. We have 9 drills turning right now. It's one of the busiest programs out there. So it's not a big deal for us to add a 10th or take one of those drills and start testing some of these very exciting targets.
I've talked to some of the other, Rob McEwen and Sean Roosen, about the market turning in 2016. And Integra has done a very good job of continuing to move forward and raise capital and drill even in the bad market. But certainly this has to change things a bit. How are you seeing interest in the sector and interest in Integra Gold picking up over the last few weeks? Is it encouraging?
It's very encouraging. As a company, our strategy is very much, we have a motto in our office where we say, treat every day like it's the end of the rally. Because if the market keeps going, which we believe it will and we think it will, we're going to do great from that. But we still have to, as a company, strategize and prepare for the worst. And over the last few years, if you look at 2015, one of the worst years for gold companies, coming off a 2 or 3 year downtrend, Integra was up 74%. So the last few weeks, the last, say, 6 weeks in this market has been great. We're not dependent so much on the price of gold, whereas I think we've shown the market, if we just execute on our strategy, we've got a high-grade project that can survive at a wide range of gold prices. We'll continue to see interest in the story.
Last question for you. I know this is pure speculation, but any indication of how much gold you guys think is on that project?
I think I'd get in a lot of trouble if I answered that. If I answered that question, I'd say what's really encouraging is we've taken over 100 submissions, and we're going to see 5 of them tomorrow. But we had a lot of targets show up that there was a few targets that showed up in multiple submissions, 10 plus submissions, and some were using computer science, artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms. Other were using pure geology based on a team with 150 years of experience. It's very encouraging for us when we see that for multiple teams to come up with the exact same untested target. That's what we're most encouraged about. That's where we think the highest probability of a big gold discovery. How much is there? I think we'll have to wait and see.
All right, Stephen, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
This is Colin Cattell with Palisade Radio, and we're here at the Integra Gold Challenge. We're talking to some of the finalists of the challenge. We will have the reveal happening tomorrow, Sunday night at the beginning of PDAC. We're sitting here talking to Paul Pearson. He's one of the finalists. He's entered as an individual. Paul, could you please give us a bit about your background?
Hi, I'm a exploration geologist and also a structural geologist. I've been in the industry for about 30 years. I've worked all over Australia and all over Latin America. I love greenstone terrains. This is the sort of rocks that you find Sigma Lamarck in. And I'm really excited to be able to present my ideas to the Shark Tank tomorrow.
Fantastic. And Paul, how do you go about looking for the extension of the previous deposit, or why do you think that you against the other groups might be able to find something that the other groups won't be able to find?
I bring long experience in these sort of terrains, structural analysis related to ore deposits, and an extremely meticulous approach, a section by section, level plan by level plan, modelling of the geology together with Leapfrog. And I think I've recognised structures and controls in the mineralisation, using that experience to find some really exciting targets very close to Lamarck.
All right, great. And final question, what is your hypothesis at the end of your studies here? What's your findings? Do you think there's a lot of gold there?
Absolutely. I think there's a huge potential very close to Lamarck. And whatever the outcome tomorrow, I hope the company runs with my ideas, because I think that represents an enormous opportunity to add value to their portfolio and to their general bottom line.
All right, Paul, best of luck tomorrow night.
Thanks very much.
We're sitting down with the second contestant now. It's JP Payment with SGS Geostat. JP, welcome on the program.
Thanks.
Yeah, it must be quite the boiler room in there. You're getting ready for tomorrow night. You're one of the finalists. Congratulations on that. What is it that you see that the project has merit at this point? You've done obviously quite a bit of work, months of work at this point. Hopefully you're the winner, but do you think the project has merit?
Like the full project merit will be for us. Well, we worked a full month, right? And I guess the main takeaway for us, just being in the top 5, is really good exposure. We pushed more of the sciencey stuff. We were able to develop some new exploration techniques and stuff like that. So that was an awesome takeover for us or whatnot that we brought home. And then maybe bringing home $500,000 would be pretty cool for our company. But mostly for us, it's just a matter of getting our names out there, getting our names as expert, and really pushing the limits of what can be done with science regarding exploration work.
So tell us a little bit more about the methods that you used. What differentiates you from the other groups that are up there on stage tomorrow?
Well, it's pretty hard for me to say what's really different about us because I have no idea what the other guys did. But on our side, what we did is we tried to divide the space into cells. So just take the whole property and all the way up to 2 kilometers deep. We divided that into equal size blocks, right? And all the blocks had different information in them. So regarding the geology, the gold grades, the structures that are near, all of that, all of the exploration criteria that we deemed useful to find gold were fed into that block model. And then we could filter through it and find hotspots for exploration, right? So we could find volumes, targets, and actual tangible targets that we could plan drill holes. It's super easy to use and it can update itself. And then after we did that, we fed a model to Doug, which is our machine learning expert. So what he did is kind of validate our model using machine learning. So instead of a human trying to find correlation, the computer did all of that by itself, predicted the probability of having ore in each block. And then we use that as a vetting process for our target. So if we had the target with a machine learning good score and just a geological based knowledge good score, well, we thought that was a really riskless target. So it was really worth drilling. If target came in with the AI or the machine learning stuff by itself, then it was more riskier. If it just came up with the geological knowledge, we classified it more risky. And the other thing is that the model then can be updated with whatever drilling you do. So even if you miss the targets, if you don't catch mineralization, all the information that you get by drilling can be fed back into the model, rerun, and updated. And maybe the targets are going to move around a bit. You might have missed them, but at least the information you gathered by drilling is helpful through the time. So that's a pretty cool thing we have too.
All right, fantastic. JP, welcome, and thank you so much for coming on the show, and best of luck tomorrow night.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll see what goes down tomorrow, I guess.
All right, and we're sitting here with the third contestant, Andy Wild. He's with a group of 6 called the Gold Crushers. Andy, tell us a little bit about the group you put together for the competition.
Well, if I had to sum it up, I'd say experience. But between the 6 of us, we have 130 years of collective experience in the industry. We also have a diversity of backgrounds. We've got English, Australian, Ghanaian, I think that's about it, geologists and geophysicists.
So going into the competition, there's loads of data for you to comb through, and the winner, of course, is going to be the people that go through it the best and figure out the best techniques to find what's under the ground. What's a little bit about how you guys went about it?
Without wishing to give too much away, we adopted a slightly different view to that, but I really don't want to tell you too much because my opposition is out there. We have a different way of looking at it. It's not about data necessarily. There's a lot of potential at Sigma Lamac, but I think I don't want to say anything more about that.
Fair enough, and there's fierce competition indeed. What is your group of 6 going to do if you win the $500,000?
I think first of all, jump up and down and drink lots of champagne. But to be honest, we haven't even thought that far. We're just happy to be here and take full advantage of the opportunity that Integra have given us.
Great. Well, we are at PDAC, and it'd be a great time to jump up and down and drink champagne. Andy, thank you so much for coming on the show, and best of luck tomorrow night.
Thank you very much.
And we're talking to the fourth contestant now. His name is Craig Hart, and he's with GoldRx, and the other member of the team, Sarah Jenkins, also sitting here. Craig, tell us a little bit about the background and why you decided to enter into the challenge.
You know, the group that we represent is the Mineral Deposit Research Unit at University of British Columbia, and we have developed expertise and know-how about this sort of approach. So this was a terrific opportunity for us to have the opportunity to raise our profile and show the world the skills that we have in this direction.
Tell me a little bit about the process you guys used from the beginning without giving away any trade secrets on how you went through all the data and the different techniques you've developed.
Yeah, no real trade secrets here. We were very pragmatic. We had a tremendous amount of data. We needed to figure out what was the useful data and what wasn't useful. And then once we had the good stuff, we went ahead with it and made it better. And so the opportunity to add value to the existing data sets and then integrate it all at the end to give us a defined target, that was the process, very straightforward.
And after your review, how much gold do you think is under the ground there?
You know, when we look at the big property that they have, there's still multi-million ounces existing there. I'm very confident. There's targets that we can see all over the place. The one that we're presenting is just what we think best represents the challenge, which was to find a bigger deposit, higher grade, that's cost-effective and exploitable.
Fantastic. And you guys are smart. There's only 2 of you. The last group had 6, which means the money has to be split many more ways. What do you guys do with the money?
We're not in it for the money. You know, we're just in it for the opportunity to get the visibility and profile. But I'm sure we can find some good things to do with that. Maybe even investing in Integra, because the resource there is going to last them for many, many years.
All right, Craig, thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck tomorrow.
My pleasure.
And we're here with the 5th and final contestant for the Gold Challenge. We're talking to Vincent with Data Miners. His partner Antoine is also here. Vincent, welcome on the program.
Hi, Colin.
Yep, and I want to ask you first off, what is it that your group has that differentiates you from the other 4 final contestants?
Well, first of all, we are unique. We think outside of the box, and we bring innovative method to an industry, and we bring innovation.
Tell me a little bit about both of your backgrounds.
Well, we are students. I'm a master's student, and Antoine is a PhD student. We both study in Quebec City, and yeah.
And what's the finding of your months and months of research here? Do you think there's a lot of gold under the ground there?
Sure, there is lots of gold, and what really important is not the gold, but the gold is really important, but it's also the method. We're revolutioning everything there.
Well, certainly winning the prize tomorrow night would be a great thing for your career and your name. Also a huge chunk of money. What would 2 students do with $500,000?
Well, it depends. Well, we're 6, so it's $500,000. It's good, but 6 students, we'll split that. Probably do some fun stuff, but mostly invest for the future. Maybe Integra. Integra could be a very good investment.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I wish you the best of luck tomorrow night, Vincent.
Thank you, Colin.
Think you understand the junior mining sector and you think that the participants in the mining sector, junior mining sector, are good people and kind people, hit the bid.
And the world is always going to need raw materials. It's going to need copper and gold and nickel and so forth.
Totally destabilized. Hey, Troll, did you hear what's going on in Yemen, or are you too stupid?